the chairman of the National Northern Senators Forum, a certain Senator Abdul Ningi, the PDP Bauchi Central, a few weeks ago insisted that projects of 3.7 trillion in the 2024 Appropriation Act were not traceable, and it was therefore interpreted as some form of budget padding, and so on and so forth. There is something that we have put together, which I'm going to ask Sister Jumoke Akin Taylor, who is back safely in San Francisco or in California, to read before we now go fully into the discourse for today. So Jumoke, if you are ready, please can you read the little extract we have that will give some kind of direction to our discussion today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So this was written it was copied. We didn't write it, so I'm just going to read it. And it starts off with distinguished criminals. When Nigeria returned to civilian rule in 1999, one of those elected into Nigeria's Senate was a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, AIG. He stated in an interview that sitting with him in the Senate of Nigeria are people he had investigated and locked up for various criminal offenses when he was in service. In his assertion, some of them were rogues who were unfit for decent societies, let alone in leadership positions. He was suspended. He was suspended for bringing the Senate to disrepute. Citizens did not protest. After spending months at home without salaries and allowances, he had to apologize to the Senate and promise to be of good behavior. That was in 1999. In 2016, a member of the House of Representatives raised the alarm that the nation's budget was padded. Padded is euphemism for unlawful criminal tampering and inflating of budget. He went from the police to the DSS. He went from radio stations to television houses with proofs. No security agency acted or gave him attention. He was alone. He was also suspended. Buhari, who was still wearing the borrowed robe of a saint, pretended to see and hear nothing. Citizens did not protest. In 2024, a senator raised an alarm that there was no explanation for over 3 trillion naira inserted into the budget. 3 trillion. No investigation, no questions, no explanations. The Senate has suspended that senator. Tomorrow, someone will declare that Nigeria's problem is spiritual, and senseless people will still give that person attention. It is possible God looks at some people as idiots when they stand in prayers for Nigeria. Nigeria's problem is not spiritual, never has been. Nigeria's undoing is being ruled by distinguished criminals. That was copied.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. Thank you, well read. I think there are some people who should mute their microphones. There's a lot of background noise. Olu Victor, please help us check so that we...
Pastor, you can please unmute. Mr. Aaron,
Thank you.
Please unmute.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We needed to clear that noise. Right. You've heard what I said. You've also seen what Jumoke said. My first question to you, my brother, is what really is this thing called budget planning, and why is it such an issue in Nigeria today?
Okay, so thank you very much, Pastor Itwa Igodalo. I'm actually pleased to be part of this. Notice was short, but I don't mind. I had some time in my hands, so I gladly accepted. I must say that I know Pastor Itwa by reputation. I've read quite a bit about you, so it's a joy to finally connect with you in this platform today. Yes, I'm happy to be part of this conversation. And I think that one of the things we need to agree as citizens is that liberal societies need healthy institutions. And institutions like the National Assembly, these stand in the mediating space between the executive arm of government and, of course, the constituent parts of society. And the stronger and the healthier and trustworthy our institutions are, then the freer we are, all of us, to engage and participate in this important project of forging and facilitating good governance. We can safely say, based on our direct experience over the last 25 years of democracy, that the performance profile of the legislative arms of our government, that's what we're focusing on now, across the three tiers, their performance has been most embarrassing and underwhelming at the best. And needlessly, if you ask me, scandal reading at worst. But even more worrying and unfortunate is the consistently poor and often ineffectual response by large segments of civil society to these apparent failings and the underperformance by our legislatures. There is, of course, the rare exception of people like the African Leadership Group. Of course, there is also SERAP. We know SERAP, Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Projects. Some of you have come together and you're steady in your public advocacy. Several transparently open actions that you take to periodically expose, confront, challenge, and compel state and federal institutions and their pretending actors to live up to their and abide by their constitutional and lawful obligations. So I want to commend you for this. Back to your original question, you asked the question, what is budget padding? I think that often, because of the nature of the space, the media space we operate in, some otherwise very simple, innocent phrases get misapplied and misused. Budget padding is a situation where a budget is made bigger than the original estimate through an increase in the value of items or the introduction of new items into the budget. And it is not necessarily a negative or wrongful thing to do. But we must note that in our current situation, I like the statement now, that copied statement that Jumeke read. It harkens back to the problem we have with the kind of leadership, the representation we've had in the National Assembly. So we must note the fact that because of this situation, some experts have rightly observed that budget padding actually promotes a culture of open corruption. And I think that has been our experience through the years. It's not necessarily that it is bad to pad a budget. It's the circumstances of budget padding in our own peculiar circumstance that we find that otherwise responsible leaders in the legislative arm who should be accountable to the people have taken to doing the budget padding for all kinds of nefarious reasons. So in a sense, there are two things that I have running in my mind. This morning I was talking to a friend of mine and I said, I think that the media has not helped us. We operate a media environment now, it's a global phenomenon where social media is the in thing, and I sense that there's too much grandstanding about the issues, both by the people in the National Assembly, whom we must hold accountable, but also the media. The media coverage and the reporting has in this instance was and still remains very hysterical, very shallow, predictably very transient. Between you and I, by next week, all of this frenzy will be over, replaced by the next scandal. Hardly would we see a dedicated, devoted, sustained follow-up investigative report that will dig deeper. And I'm glad that we're doing this today because I do believe that we have a problem with our budgeting process. There is no doubt about it. And the padding that has occurred for some who have dug deeper into the details of the budget, there are so many things that are opaque in there, and there is need to interrogate them. So I don't know if this rambling answer addresses your question, the earlier question, but I'll be willing to throw more light as we proceed.
Is this a common practice in other parts of the world? And what sort of process leads to budget padding? Is it something that is acceptable, or really what should really be the normal process of a budgeting procedure?
So ideally, when the budget estimates are prepared, remember in our constitutional democracy, the budget process kicks off with the executive arm. So they prepare the estimates. And these estimates are shared with the National Assembly, the president, the governor, local government chairman, whichever tier of government, approaches the legislative arm and places those estimates before the House in a formal ceremony. Now, what the House, National Assembly, State House of Assembly, the local government legislative arm, where these exist, because I believe that we have more or less killed that arm now, that tier of government now. What they're supposed to do is to examine these estimates by engaging with the various constituent units, institutions for whom these estimates were prepared. And this is a practice in every democracy, really. This is how it should work. And oftentimes, you're going to get instances of budget padding. The reason being, there are certain long-range plans that need to be anticipated. And so if the Ministry of Agriculture comes, for example, and their budget is ₦1 million, it is entirely possible that in the back and forth that takes place, some padding will occur because the ministry will make a justification, for example, that down the road we may need to do ABC. That's entirely justifiable, and so you can pad the budget. But eventually, the moment it is signed into law, you're not talking about padding anymore. It becomes padding in our own situation because the practice has been detected. In the Nigerian situation, I can't speak about any other country. In the Nigerian situation, where I have been the last 25 years, the record and the practice, sadly, has been that the legislative arm, some of them, connive with some people in the executive arm, and they pad this budget for projects that are sometimes non-existent or not needed, or they are exaggerated. So we have that problem, that our budgeting process has been compromised by a padding process that ought to ordinarily serve our common good, but is being done for nefarious reasons. So we have that challenge. And I thought that the National Assembly, in this particular instance where my friend and brother, Abdul Ningi, came out and spoke in the manner he did, that they will do some self-introspection. Because what has happened is, and I like that the president of the Senate was himself the one that owned up to this fact. And I think it needs to be said loud and clear to him. The credibility or the perceived credibility of the National Assembly has been eroded because of the too many misdirections and that have occurred in his short term in office. And this particular situation underscores the need for the National Assembly to do some self-introspection, because my view is, when I studied aspects of the budget, indeed, you're going to be scandalized that the quantum of funds that they are allocating to certain heads in different ministries, for example, those funds are indefensible. So there is not necessarily a padding that has taken place that is wrong. There's a padding that's taken place for nefarious reasons, because you ask yourself the question, if the alleged 3 trillion was added to the budget, the record is out there now that it is indeed, they were indeed needed, because these are funds that are going to government-owned enterprises. So maybe his choice of language, elegance, what he needed to do was to confront the fact that some of the constituency projects claimed to be executed. These constituency projects are actually conduits for nefarious activity. And if you wanted to be honest, Abdul Ningi had a duty to point out some of this, not just that they are the humongous amounts, really, really huge, and you ask yourself, this kind of money goes to a particular constituency, it should change the lives of the people. But we have seen through 24 years of democracy that this has been the practice again and again and again, and yet the material conditions of our people in some of these constituencies have remained the same. So yes, it is necessary that we admit the fact that budgets can be padded, but we also need to admit the fact that in our own peculiar case, this has become an enterprise that, to quote the statement that was read at the beginning, a criminal enterprise, and it needs to be interrogated, it needs to be confronted, it needs to be challenged.
Thank you very much, my brother. How does budget padding affect the Nigerian state? or the Nigerian economy or the Nigerian people, what are the things we should look out for, and what sort of what does it bring to our economy in terms of the state, in terms of the economy, or in terms of our fiscal discipline and things like that?
So just to be sure, I think, Pastor, we need to agree on something, that it could be a legitimate practice to pad a budget. I think we need to stipulate that indeed you could pad the budget for all kinds of reasons that are right and true, but we need to localize this situation to what has happened and what has consistently happened in our National Assembly. That indeed the record out there demonstrates that our legislators have actually consistently deployed the budget padding process for reasons that are untoward, for reasons that could qualify as criminals. Indeed, let me harken back to what Jumoke read. The senator she referenced in 1999 was Senator Nuhu Aliyu, a retired Deputy Inspector General of Police. I remember that incident very vividly. He actually did describe, in the words that were used in that statement, that he was seated in the National Assembly with some people who had no business being there on account of their alleged criminal records, which as a retired DIG should know. So he wasn't speaking off the cuff, he was speaking based on experience. And so this also raises the fundamental question of the character of the people that we often have representing us at those levels. I remember that when a conversation like that took place between him and some other people, they actually explained that when he was challenged that, well, you're accusing the National Assembly, the police is also the same. He told them, look, we recruit police from Nigerians. These legislators are also Nigerians. So we have a general problem regarding the character of some of the people that actually end up occupying these offices. So they come from a background of compromising institutions, compromising processes, and they enter a National Assembly, a hallowed chamber, where they're supposed to be guided by constitutional provisions, and yet they deploy the same mechanism in undermining the state by budget padding. How does it affect the economy? Of course it does. I can tell you of a simple experience that I witnessed. A National Assembly committee purported to have allocated funds for the training of people in a particular local government, in a state that I will not mention. These monies were allocated and deployed to an institution in that location, a federal institution. And what they simply did with the CEO was to connive to get people to participate in a bidding process that was non-existent. It was predetermined. And these resources were released for a training, acquiring all kinds of things that needed to be deployed for the so-called training and capacity building and the rest of them, which never took place. How does this affect the economy? This is corruption, pure and simple, because this money gets withdrawn and it is shared out. And the economy gets battered because people who should ordinarily be skilled up for performance as artisans, as whatever, monies that were appropriated between the executive arm, that particular institution, and some legislators, the money has been taken, and the multiplier effect is that people have been shortchanged. So we have a criminal enterprise happening, but we also have citizens being shortchanged. So, and then beyond that, we complain about the kind of money that is in the system. There's so much money. The economic experts will tell you there's so much money in circulation. The reason is that people who have no business keeping huge sums of monies in their homes are keeping it. How did they come about it? Through corrupt means. And because of that, there are distortions within the macroeconomic space because of these things. I mean, I like listening to the central bank governor, Yemi Cardoso, and some of the points he has made about how we have succeeded in mismanaging our economy. Some of the things are attributable to this corruption that we see that's happening in a very large scale in the National Assembly. So the transparency that should ordinarily occupy or accompany the budgeting process is absent. And I think this should embarrass the Speaker of the House of Representatives. This should embarrass the Senate President, as indeed everybody who is a National Assembly member. This absence of transparency has given fuel to the notion that the National Assembly members, and I was reading Olusegun Odeni, my brother, this afternoon, that when it comes to these issues, there's this connivance and everything is muted. I remember watching a video recording of the experience that the session that led to the expulsion or the suspension of Abdul Nengi. The senator from Cross River State had been speaking up until when he mentioned that some of his colleagues had actually been allocated 500 million naira as constituency projects. When he was muted, suddenly the microphone went off. And so you ask yourself the question, why would they do that in open glare? They have no respect for Nigerians. So there's so much that is wrong with the budgeting process. If you tabulate some of the allocations that were made, boreholes here, all kinds of things, you find that a lot of them are exaggerated, which suggests that this was not done with the intention to be executed, but with the intention to be frittered away. So our economy is nonetheless better because of this kind of conduct by otherwise elected representatives.
Okay, so what do we then do? How can we put in a process wherein we can watch or pay a bit more attention to what goes on in our budgeting process, what goes on with our economy, what goes on with corruption in high places, in the Senate and places like that? Do you have any suggestions as to what we should do or what we should look forward to?
So there are three things perhaps running in my mind. The first thing is our leadership recruitment process has actually been flawed since our democratic experience started. And I blame a lot of the people who, out the door in 1999, had the commanding reins of our political process starting at that point. In the first place, we instituted this dangerous habit of selecting people because candidates for elections are selected because of the perceived loyalty to certain godfathers. So it became a rat race by many to try and please a particular godfather. Character was not checked, competence was not checked, ability to actually perform legislative duties were not checked. People were elected on the basis of the fact that they had connections, they had contacts, they had a godfather somewhere. And so all manner of shady people have ended up superintending over the affairs of state at the national, state, and local government levels. That has shortchanged us. And so however good the laws are, however good the constitution, our constitution, when you have these characters superintending over our commonwealth in those sensitive positions, then it's a recipe for disaster, because they're not going to do otherwise. They're going to perform what they did when they were out there, compromising institutions, compromising processes, betraying one another and the rest of them. So we have that as a general foundation, that our leadership recruitment process in the last 25 years, and I think when I say this, I echo Father Matthew Hassan Kuka, has been the most flawed, because it has produced more and more bad characters in the political space. The second point, and so what we need to do to answer your question about that is, I think that citizens need to engage a little bit more about who is representing them. I have argued that you must know who your councillor, the person who is running to represent you in your ward, whoever you are, you must ask questions. Who is this guy? Can he actually do it? Who is this lady? Can she do it? So citizen engagement is key. And I'm happy that platforms like yours, even though elites is Zoom, not many people on board, but at least there will be ambassadors here who will carry the message to the grassroots. So we need citizen engagement at the grassroots to vet, verify, and ascertain who are representing us, either in especially the legislative arm. And I say this because when you look at the separation of powers, the legislative arm, whether at the local government level, at the state level, at the National Assembly level, at the national level, they have a duty to oversight the executive. They're supposed to serve as a check. They have oversight functions, they make laws, but what we have seen in 24 years or so is that they've all merged and become birds of the same feather, shortchanging the system. So citizen engagement at the grassroots level to make sure the representation in the legislative arm is the right one. But you take it a step further. I worry about the fact that when you look at it, what has happened, this example in National Assembly, what is as exposed to us is that civil society need to be a little bit more engaged. So again, thank you for African Leadership Forum for this, a group for this. But we also know that there are very few of you doing this in the open space. I've often asked the question as a lawyer, as a communications person, what are we doing in our individual professional platforms as a PR practitioner? Are we engaging? I'm proud to say that the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations has done quite a lot in the last 1 year or so to engage the issues regarding governance. And I bet you that if many more civil society platforms, lawyers, nurses, doctors, engineers begin to agitate around the question of our political representation and insist that they get involved on who gets to represent us, then we will begin to see some level of quality emerge. But the third arm of it, of course, is the executive arm. It is indeed true that the legislators are not doing this suo motu, like they say in law. They're not doing it alone. They're doing this hand in glove with some institutions, characters, and actors in the executive arm. And that is why it has perpetuated for so long. So let us also admit that the executive arm is housing quite a number of people whose stock in trade is to undermine our democracy through these open acts of corruption by budget padding. What is the solution? I had cause to spend an afternoon, actually an evening, close to 6 hours, with the late Malam Ahmed Joda. You probably have heard of him or probably even know him personally. And we were discussing corruption in the Nigerian state. And this was in his house in Kaduna. And he said to me, we go around in cycles about fighting corruption. And as you well know, he's a retired permanent secretary. In their days, they were referred to as super permanent secretaries. And he said to me, one of the things he has come to see is that the civil service, as we see it, has constituted today, has become our greatest, one of our weakest links in our democratic experience. And he told me why. He said, look, a politician gets elected into office. I mean, he has this paraphernalia of office and everything. Some of them, yeah, really want to work. But he said to me, in the dead of night, the civil servants approach them and begin to whisper to them how they can game the system for personal gain. So they game the system for personal gain. And my experience in and out of Abuja in the last 5-6 years since we commissioned our hotel Fraser Suites Abuja has shown me how it is indeed true that civil servants, so the civil service, this is me telling you that the civil service itself has become the engine room of this corruption that we see. The legislators on their own are not necessarily able to move these resources in any way without the connivance of the executive arm. So institutions in the executive arm are also a weak link in this entire conversation. What do we do to answer your question? One of the solutions that my late daddy and friend, Malam Ahmed Joda, actually had suggested was burn it to the ground, start all over the civil service. In fact, he said that's something we should do with the police and some of our law enforcement apparatus, where you find that corruption is so endemic that they are not performing their duty. So is it a radical solution to burn the thing to the ground, start the civil service from afresh, and bring in new people? But the point we need to address is, where are we going to recruit them from? I heard the point made earlier that Nigeria's problem is not spiritual. As a man of faith, I don't think so. I think that I believe in my heart that the heart of man is so desperately wicked that without a spiritual cleansing, I don't see human beings in public office doing the right thing if there is no spiritual cleansing. So we do have a spiritual problem. It's just that I think there is this performative nonsense in the atmosphere. People perform religion, and so people who are not necessarily quote unquote religious are put off because they're asking the question, why are you so religious and yet corruption is so endemic amongst Christians, Muslims, animists, wherever you go? I have asked the question, are these corrupt people? On Sunday they clutch Bibles and go to church. Some of them on Fridays they head to the mosque and bow down and pray to God. And yet, in the very next moment, they're signing documents to pad the budget, to fritter money that has been padded into your budget. So yes, we do have a spiritual problem, and I think we need to admit to that. And pastors need to know that they have a role to play in all of this too. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. And that's interesting. You gave one possible solution, dwelling on the civil service. Okay, cleanse it, start it all over again. But I can tell you that if that cleansing and starting all over again is presided over by corrupt legislators, corrupt politicians, they will only again recruit their own kind or even repeat the process. So are there any other suggestions? Will Nigeria ever get out of this place that we're in, where politics is corrupt, legislative is corrupt, civil society is corrupt, civil service is corrupt? And I just say, even in the private sector, a lot of corruption is encouraged or is done and is repeated and is this and that. It's almost an aberration to try and walk the straight and narrow in Nigeria. All sorts of people, including your family members, will criticize you and say, what did you go and do in that office, and so on and so forth. What really can we do? It's like a chicken and an egg for me. I don't know if you have any bright ideas that you can espouse for us.
Okay, so let me start by saying I am as far as the Nigeria project is concerned, I'm an incurable optimist. A couple of years ago, I was part of the movement that taught that actually forcefully made the argument that the military regimes, successive military regimes, had actually destroyed us, and we needed to overthrow them. We needed to bring back democratic rule. I joined the underground movement to confront military dictatorship. I forever remember the leadership of our late sage, Alao Akaba Showun, and the older brother to, I think, Fela's younger brother. Also, of course, Femi Falana and the rest of them. There's quite a number of them who actually taught us the methods of confronting dictatorship. And so we did quite a bit of work in that regard. The reason being that we felt that the military government had trampled on rights, and in the course of it, a lot of corruption was taking place. We did not realize that the civilian regime, the democratic regime, participatory democracy that we're fighting for was going to turn out into this huge monster and a drawback. And so, yes, I agree with you. We have a situation now where in 25 years of civilian democracy, just about every institution in our country is tottering. There's no institution that's escaped the stain of corruption. None. Believe me, you can't mention any. And it speaks to the rot that is endemic to the society at large. Because again, the members of the local government legislative arm, the chairman of the local government, appointees, commissioners, councillors, members of the State House Assembly, National Assembly, ministers from the political space, they're all from our polity. They're all Nigerians. So what we're dealing with is a country nationwide malice. It speaks to a total collapse of values that respect the next person. Because if I know that I am superintending over an institution that should deliver succor to our people, and yet I connive with the legislator because I'm the chief executive in that institution, or I'm one of the officials, I connive with the legislator and we undermine or misappropriate, misdirect funds, then of course it speaks to my hatred for my neighbor. So we have this as a fundamental problem. And Jumoke, I dare add, when you read about that statement, what struck my mind, and I noted it was, what is Nigeria? Does Nigeria have a spiritual problem? I insist that we do. It is a spiritual problem. So one of the solutions for me is we need to look inwards. Sadly, I used to think about the fact that, okay, maybe the religious institutions will lead the charge and be our savior in this matter. Help us demonstrate that we can get solutions. I happen to have worked around some of my church organizations, and I came away with a sour aftertaste. Really sour that my dad, a retired clergy himself, had to warn me one day and said to me, follow Jesus, don't follow this man. It was that bad. So what I'm saying is, in addressing your question, are there any bright solutions? We lost our values. Believe me, you mentioned family. Many families are busting to the seams because there is no respect for any value. There is this craze for material acquisition. It is dominant in families. There's a competition amongst families wanting to outdo one another. There's envy, there's jealousy. Again, it throws back to, it brings it back to the question of the spiritual condition of the human heart. That people have decided that what they will own and gain here, it's all that matters. There is no perspective about the fact that everything here is transient. I am old enough to tell you that a short 30 years ago, I knew some of the people who were the wealthiest in my immediate neighborhood of Plateau, Kano, Kaduna, and so on and so forth. When illness came, their wealth could not save them. When death came, their wealth could not save them. Now, how come we have lost that perspective that people are taking up public office, either as elected or appointed, and stealing in the manner they are doing? So for me, I still come back to the question that what has happened to the heart of the Nigerian that we don't mind stealing the Commonwealth? Very few people. This stealing is happening between and amongst very few people. But the sad thing, and you mentioned it, Pastor, is that the entire fabric of society has become affected. There are family members that if you get appointed into an office and you do not steal, they're going to curse you. And we need to ask ourselves the question, when did we get to this terrible space? Bright ideas as to what needs to be done. Honestly, the one bright idea I have is that individuals must check their conscience. Are you doing this for the common good? Because if as an individual I have that conviction, and I find another individual who has that conviction, and I find another individual who has that conviction, and together we begin to build a critical mass that will make a difference. That's very important. So finally, for me on this point, Pastor and the crew, I think that those of us who claim that we're concerned, and this is one of my regrets, that we're concerned about what is going on, and I don't doubt anybody's claim, I think that we need to begin to build bridges. We need to begin to forge alliances where we will speak and participate, not just speak, but participate in the processes so that we can begin to see the emergence of credible people who actually understand what it means to be leaders in the public space in a democracy. I look to Rwanda and I see what a bunch of few people came together and made the determination. Now, forgive me, I do know that the conversation about Rwanda when it comes to democracy is a charged one. Some have argued that Rwanda is not a democracy. It's a conversation for another day. But the altruism that has driven President Kagame in regards to the material condition of his people, recognizing where they are coming from, I think it needs to be commended. Now, do we remember as a people where we're coming from? That this has been a bad experience for us? If we say yes, then we need to begin to forge those alliances, begin to build groups in different places. And I want to commend you. This thing you're doing, Premium Times, I know, is doing quite a bit of work in regards to mobilized information. Daily Trust, together with the International Center for, I think, Investigative Reporting, is doing quite a lot of work in this space too. We need to forge all these alliances together and begin to call out this bad behavior that has become endemic in our political space. Because whether you like it or not, when you look at the horizon, believe me sincerely, it is gloom. It is doom. These guys have no sense of shame anymore. And like I said to another elderly person 2 years ago, I insisted that they have stolen us so much. They've stolen us blind. And they're so wealthy that it's going to be difficult. And this is another reality we have to deal with. It's going to be very difficult to uproot them. I hope people know that, but we need to start somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to be opening the floor for questions and answers and things, and I'm going to be asking Pastor Sonny to take that session and so on and so forth. So if anybody has any contributions, questions, or you want something, keeping it short, straight to the point, please indicate electronically that you so do. I see Anolugwenga has put up his hands. So I just want to ask our guest if he has any thoughts and any other words on budget planning, while I then hand over to Pastor Sonny to take over the Q&A session. Do you have any other thoughts, any words, any sort of thinking and advice for Nigeria and all of us on this issue of budget planning, and things?
Yeah, so just a thought about the fact that I'm reiterating a point I made earlier. The budgeting process starts with the executive, whether at the local government level or the state level or national level. It goes to the legislative arm. The history of that arm of government in the last 24 years has been a very dismal one, very embarrassing. we need to hold them accountable. Civil society in every state of the federation must begin to visit the state houses of assembly and ask questions. Those of us in Abuja should begin to do the same, because what comes before them needs to be treated with the sensitivity it requires, but also with the integrity that is required, so that it meets the needs of the people. But because we are not engaging them in a sustained manner, whether at the local government level, state level, national level, they do whatever they want with what the executive brings to them. And so the connivance between them and the executive is going on because they have become so used to it. My thoughts are budget padding can be helpful if it is justifiable, but in our own case, we have seen how it is not helping us. Instead, it's a conduit pipe for corruption. So we need to engage our state houses of assembly, the National Assembly, and at the local government level where we have democratically elected representatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great. Thank you very much, Harun, Harry. My name is Sonny Enebi. I will be handling the Q&A session. You have spoken very, very well about this whole budget padding and no padding. We have a few people that have raised up their hands they want to ask. The way we normally run it is we'll take a couple of questions together or comments, and then you can attend to them, maybe 3 or 4. Then you can attend to them together, and we will then take another set because it's a participatory program where people want to, contribute and also ask questions. So we'll start with Olubenga, then we'll move to Tayo, and then we'll take Oluyinka. So those 3 first. Olubenga, if you can unmute yourself and either make your comment or ask your question.
Okay, hello everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for the presentation. So for me, concerning this budget padding and solution, I think the thing what I feel is that we should just continue to orientate the people, because the corruption has gone so deep into the system. So a lot of orientation is needed. Then also I think in the past few years, we've not had a president or leaders that have the willpower to do what is right. Not that they don't know what is right, but they don't have the willpower to do what is right for 1 or 2 reasons. Now, while you were talking, I was going through the budget, and I'm on Federal Ministry of Agriculture. I was almost weeping because most of what they have in their budget had nothing to do with infrastructure, had nothing to do with agriculture. So another thing I've seen is that the National Assembly do not take enough time to scrutinize the budget before they pass it. And all of this boils down to corruption, because the president needs the National Assembly to pass most of the things it needs to do. The National Assembly also needs the executive arm. So that's why I'm saying that at this point, corruption has gotten so deep. The only thing we can do is orientate the people. And like you said, we'll just continue to pray for Nigeria, and that one day we'll get it right with the right leaders. That's my contribution. I will indulge us that we should go through the budget. It's on budget. You find everything. You find the breakdown there. It is alarming. It is serious. I'm telling you.
All right. Thank you very much. So yours was just a comment. Pastor Tayo, over to you. You can unmute yourself and make your
Right.
comment.
Thank you very much, Pastor Sonny. Thank you very much, the presenter. I think my own perspective is, let us look at the international development financial institutions, IMF, World Bank, IFC. From my research, as of June 2020, the World Bank and IMF has given over $602 million for public financial management. And part of it is to build the capacity of legislators, executives, both at state, national, and local government levels on public financial management, that is understanding budget planning, budget formulation, execution, and institutional accountability. So we don't hold these international institutions responsible. They are part of the problems. They keep awarding IDA loans
to legislature, to the executive arms who have no capacity to manage such loans, and they don't follow through to monitor the proper use of the money. You can go on the World Bank site and pull out public financial management grants and loans given to various governments. You can imagine at the end of Buhari's government, how much was given to him 30 days before he left office as IDA. And then you look at their monitoring and evaluation of these amounts. So I think, yes, we have a problem, but then we have the international community who are adding to the problem by continuously supporting weak institutions. I think the World Bank can hold us accountable. That is, if a government does not fulfill the proper systems and structures to manage a facility, they can have an objection, they can hold it forth, and that will challenge our legislators and even the executive arm to be more responsible. So I think we need to start looking at the international financial institutions and challenge them as citizens that they are actually creating more problems by just giving resources without proper monitoring, evaluation, and holding legislative arm and executive accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will leave our friend Hurain to answer to all that. So we'll take Oluyinka. Oluyinka, unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, everyone. I'll try to be coherent. First of all, the National Assembly does not have powers to insert or execute projects. It's not constitutional. It's not the remit of the National Assembly. All the National Assembly has the responsibility to do have been listed in Section 62, Section 81, and Section 88 of the Constitution. There's nowhere that the National Assembly is granted powers to insert anything in an appropriation bill or to have what you call constituency allowance. There's nowhere. Constituency projects are illegal. They are unconstitutional. The role of the National Assembly is to superintend what the executive is doing, what the ministries are doing, what the MDAs are doing, inspection of projects. It is an aberration. It is wrong. It is unconstitutional from 1999 till date for our National Assembly to execute projects or to even collect monies. I shudder. I am aghast at Anokpeyemi Bamidele, who claims to be a legal practitioner in Nigeria and also called to the bar in the United States, calling himself the Senate leader and saying that I got 500 million, I got 200 million, different people. It's amazing. The National Assembly has no powers to execute projects. That, let us agree. Even if we are foolish enough not to want to take any step, let us see what is right. That's number one. Number two, what I call a conspiracy of silence. The House of Representatives has been quiet over this matter since it started. The House of Representatives has the powers to cause an investigation into what is going on. We've got 360 members of the House of Representatives. We've got 109 senators. Why isn't the House of Representatives causing an investigation into this matter? Again, they have the powers to investigate in Section 88 of the Constitution, including when it has any semblance of corruption, financial misappropriations. That's why they invite people to the floor of the National Assembly. Why is the National Assembly keeping quiet? Why is the House of Representatives keeping quiet? Now move on to my next point. And this one probably leaves us with a problem. There's a practical solution. What do the people want? What do Nigerians want? I engaged the former Commissioner of Transport in Lagos State before, and I challenged him regarding what they did with appropriation at the time. And he said something to me. He said it's an economic matter that you need to put up this project so that there can be money in circulation. That is something to do with standard of living. That if you insert those projects, then in executing those projects, there will be money in circulation. And I asked him whether those meet the needs of the people. I tell you something, a senatorial election in any senatorial district would not require more than 90,000 voters. Some senators are in the National Assembly because 40,000 people voted them. House of Representatives, I am in a constituency, the largest constituency in Nigeria, Alimosho, of 11 million people. The member who won House of Reps did not get more than 60,000 votes. So nobody pays attention to the legislative arm of government. We are only bothered about the governor and who the president is. Now, the people who vote members of the National Assembly are not educated. They are the ones in the market. They are traders. They are members of associations. It's not I and you who come to vote for National Assembly members. Now, it is who those people want that will get elected. It's not who you and I want. And what do those people want? Those people, even if you tell them today that your senator got 500 million, it doesn't make any sense to them as long as the senator paid school fees for their children, bought jam form, they did graduation from sewing, they bought blending machines, and all of that. So it is us, those who are enlightened, you and I, listening to this, that should understand why we should start playing at that local level. I approached Pastor Itua last electoral cycle. I said it is important for us to get a fraction of members or people that we can vouch for into the National Assembly. In fact, the political class will not have a problem with ceding some positions to us to say, okay, let these ones go to we are not fighting governorship. Allow this person to go to the National Assembly so that we can be attacking these issues from within. We simply are not interested in getting people like us into the National Assembly. And then I move on. So what do people want? Nigerians don't care about who gets elected as a legislator or as a senator or an House of Representatives.
Okay, Oluyinka,
finally,
you have to
sorry, sir,
now.
finally, yes, I'm rounding up. The judiciary. So I'm so pained that I feel like filing an action to even question the constitutionality of constituency projects. And I saw that the senior advocate of Nigeria, way back in 2013, Akintola, had also affirmed that point. I posted the breakdown by Bojaiti in the chat. One of their recommendations as well is that the judiciary has to make a pronouncement. Are we ready to file this action? Are we ready to use our goodwill to get the senior advocate, to get the judges to pass this crucial judgment to say that there should never ever again be constituency projects that are going to be implemented by members of the National Assembly? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me allow you to take that first three. Then we'll move on to Dare, Professor Grinch, Olu Victor, and Samuel Babatunde. But just your response quickly, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
All right. Yeah, so thank you. I want to appreciate those comments. They were largely comments. They weren't questions. And I guess, I believe most of the listeners and participants will agree with the sentiments that have been expressed there. Olubenga, perfect statement. Let's begin to give our people orientation. And of course, we need leadership willpower. I bet you if a governor will make a state address tomorrow, or a local government chairman will address his constituents tomorrow, or a president of the country will address the nation tomorrow and condemn what has happened and begin to act differently, it will make a difference. So I totally agree that leadership willpower is also important. So it cascades down and people will see the body language of the leader and recognize that. And I bet you if this came from the executive, this kind of hardcore intervention will come from the president or from the governor, the legislative arm will actually sit up, they will listen. Well, the problem we're dealing with is the kind of connivance that's taking place between the executive arm and the institutions in the executive arm and some members of the legislators, so, which addresses the point Olinka is making. Because at the end of the day, it is true, the National Assembly members cannot execute it. It's not the mandate of the National Assembly or any legislative arm to execute project. But the truth is, we know that they get involved by making sure institutions in the executive arms connive with them, resources are thrown there, and then they are misappropriated, they're diverted, and they're stolen. So that connivance is taking place, and the question you make is, I mean, the point you raise is valid. We must begin to have the right people in those spaces. Yes, the House of Reps is very quiet, and it beats my imagination why, but at the same time, why should we be surprised? I'm not sure they're any different. Indeed, the example I gave you about the institution in a state that I know, it was that arm of the National Assembly that orchestrated this so-called capacity building that never took place, and yet millions of naira were removed in the name of capacity building, in the name of gift items, and so on and so forth. So we have a pandemic, really. It's a pandemic in terms of what the National Assembly is doing in this regard. Taiwo, you're right. We have some of us who were in the underground, Pastor Taiwo. We argued that these international financial institutions have actually contributed to the damage we have seen in our space. When they argue about withdrawing public support for critical social services like health and education, it tells you that we have always dealt with a monster, and we have some of our public sector people who bought that argument hook, line, and sinker. We started to privatize everything that was privatizable, forgetting that we're in a critical space as a country whereby government, the public intervention in education, in health, in infrastructure, where it was badly needed for our state of development, so that we can get some critical mass without people having quality education, quality healthcare, and the rest of them. So international financial institutions, as much as I know some other jurisdictions are very happy to have them, in Nigeria it's been a story of wars. I don't know if they've changed, but we need to interrogate and identify the deleterious conduct of some of these institutions as far as their interventions in our country are concerned. So yes, I totally support most of the points made by these three speakers, and I'm glad.
Okay, thank you. Let's take the next set. So we'll have Dare, after that Professor Grinch, and after that Olu Victor. Maybe Dare, go ahead with your question or comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Harun Ali. Mine is just two sets of questions, and I think the last speaker before you spoke almost some of what I was going to ask also. And one, you said we should hold, there's something you said was one of the solutions, that we should hold legislators, House members, leaders, those governors, we should hold them accountable. And I'm beginning to see this as a rhetoric every time when issues of politics are being discussed in the open. They say, go hold your leaders accountable. I think to a large extent, that is really, really very unfair. And it is not the right response to the citizens at this time. Because one, there's a lot of disconnect between the people, the citizens, and the leaders. You are a legal practitioner man. As of today, I don't know, you should be more than 30 years if I could ask, and I don't know at any time, or probably if you would have asked any of your old folks, if at any time the opinions were sorted before a constitution for this country was enacted. I don't know. So we've got the 1999 constitution, because I know this is a church program, and you normally say, I hear people say, if the foundation is rotten, what can be or whatever you say? I don't really know. I've spoken, but the foundation of all this already is rotten, and we try as much as possible to find comfort and solace in easily giving solutions which we know are not attainable. To me, we are all still living in self-denial. One, how can I go and ask a legislature who, one, I don't even have access to, even if it's my uncle? Because one, he is guarded by security. You don't even if you have his mobile phone number, you can't even reach him on that mobile phone number. You can't walk straight to the office to ask of him. Those people are cordoned around. Then, during the election, the process that brought these people to power, have we ever sat down to question ourselves, how did they get there?
Derry, please, I'm not cutting you, but there are a lot of hands, and if you can just go straight to the question. I'm sorry, we just because of time. Just go
Okay.
straight to the question and make a comment. Sorry, sir.
All right. So
Yes.
if we say we should ask questions to our leaders, one, how do we reach out to them? By what means? Knowing fully well that in reality, we did not put in those people there. Looking at the
Okay.
process that brought them into power, starting from when they were nominated in the party, how the parties were formed, and all that goes on before they are now brought to the as far as I'm concerned, sorry to say if the language is not too good, the folks that are thrown up there for us to elect, the process that brought them in are very questionable. And those people the reality is not to the citizens, but rather to the executive, which you said they have a kind of connection. So it's not we, because for instance, I can't go and ask my legislator who I don't know, who was not even the one I voted for, but is there. It's not answerable to me. So I can't really connect how I'm able to reach these people to ask these questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Professor Grinch, thank you very much. Professor Grinch, please unmute yourself and ask your question and make your contribution. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our legal luminary, I am so pleased that you were able to outline the various steps for making budgets. But there's one step that was omitted, and that is the fact that budgetary planning actually starts with the ministries, in the ministries. So the first thing is that the ministries must be clean themselves, but they are not. They also pad budgets for themselves. So after that, then it is sent to the legislature, and the legislature, knowing that the ministries must have done some padding themselves, also actually ask for their own bit in the budget, So sometimes, maybe not all the time, but I have witnessed that. So you can see that the whole thing is being scaled up as it goes down the line. And I believe also that this is what happens even at state level and at local government level. So by the time that we have finished with all these budgets and you add them all up, it is not a small amount of money that is leaking out of our economy. That's number one. Number two is that there are sometimes accidents that bring those who do not want to conform with the norm into such places, like ministries, etc. I'm speaking as one of the victims of sainthood. But it is very difficult to survive in the midst, because there are certain things that would have been put in place that will ensure that you are actually isolated from the information that you need to be able to sanction anybody or whatever, or abstain from taking part in anything. So we have that as well. The fact that the whole thing is built into a system. I think you mentioned a system of connivance, a system of non-transparency, etc. That is what it is. It is all woven in. Now, my only question is this. As I said, there are sometimes a few people who get in and they do want to do something different. Like Ningi, I mean, we don't know what his motive is for revealing what he did, but it doesn't matter. At least he has done that. What should we be saying about them? How can we give them support so that in future other people will want to follow suit? They will, they will not be afraid that if they give the game away, they will be isolated and they will become pariahs in their community, and they might even lose their career and all that. So that is one question that I want to ask. Also, the second one was the one about going down the way. All the, various institutions, do you have the evidence for us to show that this is what is happening at every level of government? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. In fact, that's your question about how can we support whistleblowers that come out of the National Assembly to state, because I remember this chap from Kano, he cried himself hoarse. What was that guy in the House of Rep? Had documents, went to Buhari, nobody listened to him, and he lost out in the end. Olu Victor. Olu Victor, are you still there? Okay, let's have Samuel Babatunde. Samuel Babatunde, unmute yourself.
Hello.
Praise the Lord. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I wasn't unmuted before.
Okay, so sorry about that. Okay.
Good
Go
evening,
ahead.
everyone.
So I should hold on then.
Yeah, hold on. Samuel, hold on a minute. Yeah. Mute yourself, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to thank our speaker for today, and I want to thank everyone that has commented so far. I really love the idea of burning down everything and starting all over again, especially when it comes to the civil service and some of the MDAs and the ministry in this our country. And I also want to state that part of our problem, like you've stated, is that most citizens are really not interested in what is going on in Nigeria. We are just interested in following the political circle. For 4 years' time, we'll come out, make some noise. Then after the election or selection, we'll go back into our cocoon and continue complaining. But if all of us are interested in what is going on within our locality, if we join political parties in our communities and we are interested in knowing the selection processes, it will help us to ensure that we get the right people at the right offices. And I dare say that the problems of Nigeria, everybody knows that it's all about leadership. But if we are able to get about 12 those people in this country, about 3 or 4 of them are elected and the other ones are appointed. If we can get the presidency right, the vice presidency right, the Senate president, and the Speaker of the House of Assembly, while the other are appointees, like the CBN governor, the Chief Judge of the Federation, Chief of Army Staff, Inspector General of Police, and some of the ministers, maybe the Finance Minister, Works and Housing, and some of them like that. If you're able to get righteous people in that position within a political circle of 4 years, a tremendous improvement will be achieved in the Nigerian politics, because Nigerian citizens are one of the easiest people to lead in the world. The moment they know that the body language of their leader is right, everyone will conform. When Buhari came in his first term, people were already returning stolen funds. So people are resigning their appointment because they know that they might not be able to cope with the way and the body language of Buhari. But when he didn't do anything, and they tested him and they saw that he is just a backing dog without teeth, they now intensify their efforts in corrupting the system and stealing as much as they can steal. So my contribution this afternoon is just to encourage all of us to be interested in what is going on within our locality. Let us ask the chairman of our local government, how is he appropriating the money that has been awarded to him? The councillors representing us, how are they ensuring that they do what we have elected them to do? Likewise, the person representing us in the House of Rep and the Senate, we need to take all of them to account and engage them to know that they are actually doing what we elected them to do. So if we have the right people, if we get the selection system right, and we enthrone meritocracy as against the quota system that we are using in Nigeria, if you use the best people for the best position, for the right position, Nigerian politics and economy will improve tremendously. Thank you. God bless you.
Olu, I think you can take those three quickly, then we'll take the last set and then we'll begin to wind down. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much to Mr. Dare, Professor Nike Grange. I know you by reputation. It's a pleasure to meet you here today, and also, of course, Olu Victor. But one after the other, Dare, you make a good point. Access to these representatives can be difficult. My answer to that will be that we should, rather than agonize, let us organize. I believe that, and I link this with what the point Olu Victor was making, if we stop the lamenting and stop the agonizing and begin to organize ourselves around certain platforms, this is a point Oluyinka made earlier, and in those platforms we can begin to engage the political process, engage the politicians. When we say that we should hold our leaders responsible, these legislators responsible, we are not playing to the gallery, we're not grandstanding. It is our democratic right that when we come to them as institutions, as platforms, we can meet them in their offices, we can demand to see them. In fact, we can make it so open that and get collaboration with the media that when they refuse to see us, it becomes a stain on them. And in the next election cycle or the next available opportunity, we can make their obstinacy visible. We can name them and shame them. This is how democracy works. So let us not despair. We can look for ways to access these people when we organize and participate. And this is the point Olu Victor was also making, that we must have an interest in what goes on. There's too much attention. I mean, not rightly so in the presidency, in the governors, but we need to remember that the primary unit of governance is at the local government level, and it starts at the ward. And each ward gets to be represented either alone or with a bunch of others by a councillor. Who is your councillor? I dare you, many people in this platform don't even know the name of the councillor representing them. And with due respect to all of us here, that is if the governors have allowed for democratically elected leaderships to emerge at those levels. But we need to know that that is where it starts. We must hold our councillors responsible. And when a certain gentleman in your church, in your mosque, in your platform as lawyers, whatever, gets appointed into a position, your platform becomes the platform for engaging such a one. We are too absent in this democratic process, many of us, especially the elite, and we need to change that attitude if we want to get these guys to begin to do the right thing. But back to the two questions that Professor Nike put forth. I mean, if I hear her rightly, is there evidence in regards to some of this connivance? I just shared with you what I saw happen between a bunch of guys in a particular cycle of the National Assembly from the House of Representatives conniving with the federal institution to purport to have executed a project that did not exist. Now, when you speak about the budgeting process starting from the ministry, you're totally right. You broke it down. When I mentioned the executive in my presentation, I was looking at the institutions of the executive as one. It is true. That's where the budget estimates start being prepared. And it is true that at those levels, the padding actually does take place too. But once they get to the defense of these budgets, another level of padding takes place for nefarious reasons, often for corrupt reasons. And the evidence is actually there. And believe me, if Nigerians will come forward and speak about what they know happening to our budgetary system processes because of the connivance between the legislative arm and the national and the institutions of the executive, we will be scandalized. It is a scandal. We're not making this up. The evidences are there, but we don't. The institutions that should challenge this, the media establishments, media organizations need to do a lot more and support what Premium Times and ICIR are doing with their partner media organizations, and of course civil society platforms like the Africa Leadership Group and SERAP and so on, because it's our common fight. It's our joint fight. We need to come together and actually expose these shenanigans, and there's a lot of it going on. The problem is, as we're going to find, or as we know, is that quite a number of our compatriots, some of them very close to us actually, are participants in this very degrading, if you like, very, very dangerous practice of conniving to divert public funds. It's an endemic wound. It's a pandemic. I don't want to pretend about it. I know people who actually were doing this and are still doing this. So it's not a lie. The evidence is right there, and we must expose it. And exposing it will require that we collaborate. We must organize and collaborate and challenge it. The next question you asked is, how do we support whistleblowers like Ningi? Now, let me back up and say, I have known Ningi from his days in the House of Reps. He's from Bauchi. I live in Jos. I was born in Jos. I'm a certified settler in Jos. And I've met Ningi at the platform of ISEC. Some of you know ISEC, the student organization in universities. For up to about 10 years, I was chairman of the board of advisors of ISEC, University of Jos. And the students had cause to invite him, and that's how I made his personal acquaintance. At the point, I think I even had his telephone number. My worry is how Ningi has gone about this. Because the quarrel, for many people, I'm very far away, but what I see happening is a clash of the titans. If you listen to Jarigbe very well, the senator from Cross River, his grouse is that he didn't get. So it's not about the fact that, oh, this is wrong. We should focus on the fact that it's wrong. I think that Ningi's choice of language or phrases in describing this conversation actually needlessly misdirected a lot of people. He ought to have zeroed down and discussed the fact that this padding is being done for corrupt reasons, rather than just talk about the thing being padded by up to 3 trillion. The padding actually did take place, and as you can see, they can easily explain it. The 3 trillion, 3.7 trillion was for government-owned enterprises, so NJC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and so many of them like that. That is their own budgets, and they're usually standalone budgets. And like Sherwin Onigbinde will argue, it is indeed necessary that civil society interrogate those cluster budgets. We need to dig deep down into those budgets, but not those for those government-owned enterprises. Ningi ought to lead a conversation about interrogating even the constituency projects that are being inflated. And I mean, I checked the constituency projects for Akwa Ibom. You should go and check them. It's a scandal. It is a scandal. That's just one instance. And so Ningi's attitude to this, I mean, for me, leaves a very sour taste, because he's been in the system. For all I care, he knows what is going on, but he needs to speak a little bit more forthrightly. And of course, like, you know, once you begin to speak forthrightly, you are toast. And what happened to DIG Nuhu Aliyu is happening to him. The story is told of the journalist, I'm sure you know about it, from Kenya. We don't know how true. Used to be an anti-corruption crusader. And then he gets appointed into a government position and he goes all quiet. The next time he's in the UK, a BBC reporter approached him and said, hey, you used to talk quite a lot about corruption in your country. You've all gone quiet. And his answer was, well, in Africa, when the elders invite you to eat, you don't eat and talk at the same time. This is the problem we have. Ningi is talking now because he's been sidelined. I challenge him to fight this corruption battle by naming names and describing what he's experienced in the National Assembly in the last 8-12 years have been, if he wants to be honest with himself, he should disgrace people who have been participants in this, even if it means it will cost him his political career. I think that's what he needs to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that frank.
Maybe a last point is, how do we support them? I think I went on and on. I didn't. We need to support whistleblowers like that. I totally agree that institutions like the African Leadership Group must invite such people too to your platform. Let them come. Let's give them visibility. But also, you realize that they will need lawyers. So if they're going to be protected, all of us must be prepared to chip in our widow's mite to support these whistleblowers when they need legal representation, because lawyers don't come cheap. Thank you.
Yeah, but they have been chopping since now. Like in Ningi's case, he has been.
no baby lawyers like us.
Oh, all right. Okay. Thank you very much for that comment. All right. We'll quickly take the last set, quite frankly, so that we can round up and people can go and do some other things. We have Comrade Frederick, Pastor Funke Awolowo, and those were the last two I had. But Samuel Babatunde before then, did you get to ask your question?
No, he hasn't.
Okay, all right. So we get Samuel Babatunde, Comrade Frederick, Pastor Funke Awolowo. I see Dan, Emma, Professor Uzoma, and Fikayo Edo. I think we'll try and take you. If everybody can just restrict themselves to at least a minute, one question or one comment. Samuel, if you would raise your hand again, then we will see you to unmute you. If you raise your hand again, we'll see you to unmute you. While he's doing that, Comrade Frederick, can you unmute and ask your question? Comrade Frederick, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. The main purpose of the National Assembly is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. You will observe that the only time you have a full house is when they are doing budget presentation. On normal circumstances, you see a senator speaking and others are walking around and all of that because they are not interested in what they are doing. Some of us have suggested here what we should do, but I've come to realize that at the end of the day, we may end up not doing anything because nothing has destroyed Nigeria since 1960 as much as the silence of Nigerians to bad governance. In a normal country, from what happened at the National Assembly some days ago, the people are supposed to be at the National Assembly today. But I begin to believe that the people that will change Nigeria, that will answer this, that will solve these problems are people who don't speak English, they don't understand English, they don't use the internet. And those people will come through hunger, the hunger that these people have brought to our country. We shall be united in hunger. We'll be speaking all this grammar for a long time. I like what Mr. Audu said when you said that the executive and the legislators, they are conniving in all of this. In the budget of 2016, SERAP, you also mentioned SERAP. SERAP sued the National Assembly to court because they padded the 2016 budget by 481 billion naira. The court, under our Justice Idris, ordered Buhari to prosecute those people. He refused. That shows connivance. And you will find out also that some ministries or commissions, they will inject their budget into all of these things in a way that you will think that something is happening. In fact, if all the budgets we've been having in Nigeria since 1960, if they were implementing them to the later, by now, Nigeria would have been a developed country. The chairman of a commission, I won't mention her name because I'm in court with her. The chairman of a commission went to the former Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Inahire, to inject something into his ministry's budget for the year 2020. And what was it about? She was saying, oh, we need Nigerians in diaspora, the physicians, to come back home. So therefore, we are going to need some money. And Inahire injected it into his budget, and he defended it in the House of Assembly, in the House of Reps, and mentioned the name of this person as the person that initiated the project. 2023 was the year of the COVID-19. I now wrote on Twitter that, look, you people, you said you are going to spend some money on Nigerians in diaspora. What happened? I did not say anything more than that. This person that I'm talking about started to insult me on Twitter, this chairman of this commission. Then she said something which I was happy about because it was libel. And I now sued her to court. The case is in the court in Abuja, though I live in the diaspora. So these are things that we must do. Now, if you look at
Oga, it's one question though. It's one question.
I'm not asking a question. I'm just making a comment. Okay, if because for time, in conclusion, let me just say that we don't need a bicameral system. We need a unicameral legislative system where the people work part-time. But remember that those people that have been in the National Assembly since 1999, they have shared vehicles 7 times. Just go home with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So I move over to, I think, Comrade Frederick. Yes, sorry. I'm trying to get it. All right. Comrade Frederick.
I'm the one that just spoke now.
Just finished. He just Frederick has spoken.
Okay, all right. I thought it was Samuel Babatunde.
Maybe I should have continued because you mentioned my name twice.
No, sorry.
My hand is raised.
Yes, I'll get to you.
Babatunde is up, please. And Adesua and Pikayo.
Yes, I think they will all speak. But Samuel Babatunde is next. Unmute yourself, Samuel. Sorry, we are taking you a bit late. Are you there?
Aha. Thank you so much. Now I'm unmuted. I've been waiting for the unmuting. Okay. First and foremost, let me stand on the existing protocols and appreciate all the contributions to date. We're all having the same yearning for a better Nigeria. And I'm also a fraternal optimist like the speaker of today. At the same time, I can accept that we are facing a reality that is beyond all estimations. My point of view is this. The endemic corruption in Nigeria.
For me, is there still that sweet potatoes? Yes, that's right.
Pastor, please continue.
I beg include my yam in that boiling now, because my point is that the endemic corruption in Nigeria has gone so deep and closely associated with the foundation that is wrong. Somebody already spoke that if the foundation be destroyed, how or where can the righteous stand? My humble opinion that we need to work towards, while we'll keep up all these other efforts, I pray that they come to some fruition, but I have my serious contention or doubts about them. We had the days of Babangida walking away with $12 billion from the war windfall in Kuwait. We had the recent one of Dasuki Gate, and despite all the noise that was made pre-Buhari's entry into the office, that was the end of the story. And now we are having a Emefiele's Gate, and many more gates that will still follow. So it's apparent to me like there's a lot of hideout under the so-called unitary constitution that the military foisted upon us since 1999. And until we get back to that roots and reconstruct it back to the constitution of the people, we are gathering here and saying that we people, we should do this, we should do that. But who are we and where is our voice? As somebody wrote on the notes or on the comments page here, or the chat platform, these people you are trying to want to go and see or protest again, they're not even seeing us. They don't hear us because we didn't put them there in the first place. So I've always been an advocate for the fact that maybe if we can channel our protests or our forces towards devolution of powers, which I think I can stand a bit to give credit to the current president as silently working towards that. If we can devolve powers to the states and the local governments, we have a better handle and control over how things are done than all these current shenanigans of everybody just hiding under. That's what we go from Abuja. We're going to Abuja. Abuja is just a hideout for going to commit all kinds of crimes. There's nothing going on there other than just to share the bread, collect your own
milk in your feeding bottle and then finish it before you even get back to your state or local government. So I strongly believe that in all our workings, we look forward to how to enhance the devolution of powers. The president has now been marching on devolution of powers for the security aspect, because if we don't have secured environment, nobody's going to go out to the farms and there'll be no food. So also are the industries have been hindered today by the same challenge. But the security approach is not to keep on padding again or increasing the security budget at the federal or state. No. It's to devolve it back to the states and from states to the local governments. Because these crimes are not being committed in Abuja, they are being committed in the localities. And those who can handle them are there, but they're not being empowered or recognized. They formed a Montreal and those kind of earlier on, but they were all disabled, not being given power. So that's my submission to the team today. Well done for all the comments and all the ideas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So sorry about that comment that got in the way of what we are doing. We've taken 3 comments so far. We still have Pastor Funke Awolowo. Let me just take that. Unmute Pastor Funke Awolowo. Go ahead with your comments and questions. And then maybe we'll see how we can go with the rest. Please pardon us, Dan, Professor Uzoma, Fikayo, Adesua, and Charles Odion-Yuri. We'll see if we can still take that, but Pastor Itua will make that determination. Let's go on with Pastor Funke Awolowo.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, yesterday and 2 days ago, watching the situation in the Senate, I understand, like we've always had it, we have a very indifferent, unresponsive, and inactive citizenry. And it appears that what we are going to see is a vicious cycle. You know, people talking about it and it dwindling out. But what I want to ask, because I know that our President Tinubu has a lot, he's been trying to prove that it's coming with a difference. So, you know, as we saw with the lady, Edu, she got penalized, you know, she was suspended and all that. So I want to ask, Ningi, is this what will happen? Maybe after 3 months, it will just resurface? Or what do you think? Do you think Tinubu will do the necessary thing? Because he has a lot to prove. He wants to prove that it's different from Buhari. Buhari, what we're seeing is a residue of what Buhari did. So can you see anything different coming out? Will this be a permanent thing? Because Ningi, you know, to fault him, he came to the House, to the Senate, without evidence, and that was his flaw. What do you think will happen to him? Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So those are 3. I will let you take that. I will come back to the rest of the people. I have mentioned you, but Pastor Itua will take over from there and make that determination of how many more we can take. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Audu. Is he there? Or he's not?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
I actually lost reception for about 2 minutes there, so I missed out the last 2 commenters. Were they questions? Yes, I missed them. That would be Adesua.
Yes, Adesua.
No, Adesua has not spoken. Adesua has not been given a chance yet.
Okay, that would be Pastor Funke Awolowo and
I didn't get her. I didn't hear Funke because my connection went off briefly. So after Frederick, it was Funke, right?
Yes.
I didn't get to hear Funke at all. My connection.
I'm very sorry.
I just got back on now. You can see that even my video is not connecting.
Yes, we can see that. We can see that. Okay, no problem. Funke can raise up her hand again. Maybe we'll give her opportunity.
No, I think the question that Funke asked, Pastor Funke asked, is that what will happen to Ningi? Whether he will be prosecuted, what will the House do to Ningi, and what role will the President Asiwaju do in this matter? So that's what she's talking about.
Okay, great. I think thank you for catching the question she posed, and it's an interesting one because really what has happened to him now in the immediate term is the legislative arm has suspended him based on their rules, so he's on suspension. But we also do know that the senator from Ondo State, the businessman lawyer, Jimo Ibrahim, is also threatening to sue him. We are interested to see if he will carry that forward because, again, it will provide an opportunity for the evidence to be tested in the court of law. Ningiu is now compelled to answer to this question by his colleague senator in a court of law. Jimo is alleging that what Ningi did has damaged them as an institution, as an individual. Ningi is saying, oh, I have a lot that you guys are hiding from the public glare. So yes, I think we'll be interested to see the senator from Ondo take that forward. But as for the president of the country, at the end of the day, we must recognize that we haven't seen much of movement in terms of what the presidency can do about our corruption. I'm old enough to tell you that I had high hopes for President Olusegun Obasanjo coming out straight from prison to his Baptist church in Owo for the Thanksgiving shortly thereafter as president. I expected to see a lot more that he did. Instead, we saw, for want of a better word, the shenanigans that happened in his 8 years. Yaradua too brief. Of course, we saw what happened with Goodluck Jonathan. And then Buhari, whom some of us fought tooth and nail because we thought Megaskia had come. In Hausa, the man of truth. Of course, like someone in these platforms answered the question, addressed the issue. When many of the corrupt people found that he was toothless, he was backing without a bite, we saw the endemic corruption that characterized his regime. Some of them are walking free today, some of his aides who did quite a lot of damage to our system, not to talk of the connivance that took place with the National Assembly. So we're watching President Bola Asiwaju, Tinubu, what's his name again? Forgive me. We're watching the Asiwaju to see, as our president, whether he will dance differently, knowing that he has a date with history. His legacy is being defined as we speak. So we watch and see. Thank you, Funke, for that.
Okay, thank you. Pastor, I crave your indulgence to give everybody one minute, just 1 minute to quickly throw in your questions for everybody.
Yeah, go ahead, Sonny. Go ahead and let's quickly round up.
Yes, Dan, Prof, Fikayo, Adeswa, and Charles. No, Abdullah, I can't take you anymore. You just came in. So one minute, please. Dan, Emma, let's go quickly.
Do you want me to go?
Okay, go.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now, Dan. Go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I apologize for joining this platform late because we have a situation here at my own home state, Atlanta. We just lost, our next Prime Minister of the Republic of Nigeria here. He came here for a birthday and he lost his life to the cold hands of death. So, Chief Architect Aduku, OON, and I am at the center of the planning for funeral and the rest of them. So, I just thank God because this platform is a platform for a like-minded individual, because I have heard so many things about faith. You talk about not actually agonizing and complaining. I think I'm taking it from there, that we have to organize ourselves, and we have opportunity to do that. Every 4 years or every 8 years, when Nigerian change its governance, the president will come here with the delegate because he recognizes the power and the resources in the diaspora. That's an opportunity for us to tell him or the government of Nigeria that, hey, we cannot continue like this. What he comes here for is just to seek some of our experts returning home to help them. So that's a great opportunity for me. And what is it about? We have said it all. Corruption is the lifestyle of political elites in Nigeria. And you have talked about foundations. So it's very hard for you to change them. So what you're going to do is just to, take the fight by yourself, like somebody has said. Let's have, actors, not spectators. So how can we do that? The Kenyan legislator that have been taken to the oblivion of activism, said it all. Because you can't just be operating on the platform of somebody and be bringing ideas that is not their own ideas. The ideas that we know here is that the resources has to go, to the citizens, not to individuals. And how are you going to change that? Why the ideas and philosophies of political parties and platforms that are there is that me, and my family, or me, and me alone. So if you are going to play on their own platform, you have to, dance to their own tune. So when they come here, or we can even under this platform, look for, a candidate, an independent candidacy opportunity from here. Diaspora is a very, very strong catchment area. And we can, with that opportunity, we can suggest the ideas to them. Because they use the technocrats down from the MDAs to the local government levels, to rig in themselves. And these people are the ones that organize all this corruption for them. They can't do it by themselves. But when you want to change, you have to create your own platform and then bring your own philosophies and ideas to play. But talking about how can we intervene, as an organization, some of us have organized ourselves, and I want to use this opportunity, to invite us or, to receive the endorsement of our organization. We are called Linkway Diplomats Incorporated. We coordinate with Linkway Outreach Africas.
Okay, sir. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Let me go on to Professor Uzoma. Please, let's just restrict it to one question. We all have a lot to say. We all have a lot to say. Please, there's no more time. I'm taking this so that I can just accommodate everybody. Just one comment, one question, less than a minute. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All protocols duly observed. My name is Uzoma Nwachukwu, here in the United States, Washington, D.C. area. My question is collaboration. I'm just going to take it from the last speaker. What is the action points after this event, after this talk? Because one of the things that folks need is awareness. How do we massively go into the civil society to create awareness, massive awareness? I run an organization as a cybersecurity company here, so we want to help. There are a lot of people who want to help to propagate this and also further entrench awareness and education, because one of the things that starts change is when you intentionally do things. So my question is, how do we help? How do organizations participate in creating awareness and having the civil society rise up to this challenge? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think Pastor Itua or my colleague will answer to that. Thank you very much for that question. Fikayo.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to the great Josite speaker. And I'll go straight to the point. I won't reiterate on the sentiment. I think over and above the requirements, I'm calling from somewhere in the diaspora. Over and above the requirements, we have also talked about legal protection of the whistleblower and the endemic corruption. I think one thing and I'm also alluding to Professor Strange's statement, this thing starts from below. And I think one thing that is also important that we also put into cognizance is the requirement of empowering the skills, budgeting process itself, which is one of the critical points. In the diaspora where I am, the strategic budgeting workshop is fundamental from all the levels of legal processes, of all the political processes in the municipality, which is the local government. They have to put in that strategic workshop of very important training, budgeting of municipalities, strategic budgeting, performance measurement. They go through all that training because it prerequisite for them to make sure they are empowered and they can be able to monitor and control these budgeting processes. Sometimes it may be lack of skills that people are not even able to identify. It's a financial process, which is just not a tick in the box apart from, because how will they detect what is wrong outside of what is wrong, which has been endemic in our system? So one of the solutions is making sure that this budgeting process and training is also empowered and is also monitored that how these people go through that process. That they can detect it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Adeswa.
Yes, please. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My comment and maybe question is this budget padding. I talked with a chartered accountant, and he said to me, there's no how you can have a budget without having budget padding, that it is usually done. So I say ignorance is no excuse. Is it possible for us to find out? I think what we should actually look out for is the budget. How is it executed? All the money. If they don't utilize the money this year, is it carried on? Or can somebody give an account? I think that's what we should be looking at. No question whether it's padded or not padded. Because a chartered accountant told me that every budget is padded, it's supposed to be padded. It's a normal thing that is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you for keeping it under 30 seconds. I hope Charles Odion Iyore will follow suit. Go ahead, Charles.
Thank you, Pastor. My name is Charles Iyore. I live in England. That budget, that Senate hearing, I was so happy, for that was the birth of Nigeria. First of all, they allowed the press to come in. Beautiful. Secondly, people might not know that thing called budget and appropriation is a key to the treasury. Secondly, all of them said what they wanted to say, especially the guy from Niger State who talked about the need of not being divided, and the man from Cross River State who came up with disproportionate award to different places. What we must do now is to encourage that behavior to continue, so that the budget is no longer an assumed item, but a derived item. Assumed, you just put a figure. Derived, you actually know what you are going to deliver with the budget, and you have a charter. So for me, and I don't know if the speaker will see what he can do about that, we must encourage the Senate to continue with what they did on that day. I was personally quite impressed. I knew a lot of shenanigans and games that they played and bringing down the thing. That was a brilliant moment. Let's not forget they were suspended for 9 years. Now let it come out fully. If you let them come out fully, you'll be amazed at what can be achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you all. Let me allow our guests to take on this, and then after that, Pastor Itua will come on. Go ahead, sir. Are you knocked out again?
I think our guests just got knocked out again.
Okay, all right. Okay, Pastor,
why waiting for him? Do you want to take the Abdullahi before Pastor comes up, or
okay,
let me call?
Abdullahi. Where's Abdullahi? Okay, Abdullahi Bello, right?
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah, just 40 seconds. So as we have seen, this problem has been on from the military regime down to we've still had the same corruption issues and people padding and all of that. But I think we can leverage on technology, right, to be able to create accountability and create compliance, right? If the leadership, Tinubu's administration is basically willing to leverage on technology, so we can have this level of accountability and also for compliance, so you can see what is who is awarded what, how much is awarded, and all of that, and everybody can see that. That would help reduce, right, the level of corruption. I think basically corruption will be dealt with as a holistic approach, using various methods, right, not just one silver bullet. So that's just my opinion, leveraging technology to be able to make help, because we've been doing this. We've had various groups that have come up trying to tackle the government and all of that, and it hasn't worked over the years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The speaker is back, sir.
All right. Speaker, I don't know what you had where you got knocked off, but
I'm not actually knocked off. I was muted. I wasn't knocked off. I was muted.
Okay, so sorry about that.
Yeah, well, now I've been unmuted. I wanted to say that a lot has been said, and I'm not sure that we need to belabor the point. Even some of the questions that have been posed, we do know that these are questions that speak to our very conditions. We know the answers. I don't want to. So much time has gone. One area that I was interested in is the question by Fikayo regarding padding. It is true at the beginning, from the very beginning, my opening statements, I did make the point that it's not as if padding a budget in itself is wrong. Often you do it because you have a lot of derived projects that you can see could be executed in the long run, and so you add some of the those interventions and cost them, and of course you know which ministry, which agency is going to execute them. But in our own peculiar case, we're dealing with the phenomenon of connivance, where this padding takes place not because projects and services are going to be delivered that would benefit communities, constituencies. No. It is usually an enterprise for misappropriation, misdirection, and criminal accumulation of public funds. And the National Assembly has been in this for almost 2 decades, if not more, and it's become a big problem. So it is not a crime to pad a budget. It is a crime when you pad the budget and you now steal the money away. And we need to check that. So I totally see the points being made, and thank you for all the comments that have been made. I don't want us to drag it beyond this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all those that have asked questions and all the answers that have been provided. I will now call on the president of ALG, Pastor Itua, to take it home. Olu, is Pastor there?
Yes, he's here. We'll come up now. 1 minute.
Okay. Okay. Of note, maybe a question I would like to even add is there's an office of budget and being controlled by Pastor, well, what's his name again? This is our pastor in Redeem. He's the Director General of the
budgeting,
national planning or something. What exactly is their job? Because every year, ministries and agencies repeat the same items: motor cars, computers, pot and plate and spoons and chairs and tables. They just put in all those items there, and these things go through the office of the budget and national planning. Is their job not to scrutinize and say, hey, last year you had these items, they cannot be there because these things are depreciated over 4 years, so we can't buy them again. I'm wondering what their job really is. You know,
Sonny, the answer is the connivance we make reference to. There's a lot of connivance and collaboration, all for the wrong reasons. One of the things that has undermined our democracy in the last 24 years is the fact that the doctrine of separation of powers, where, for example, the National Assembly should check the executive, seems to have collapsed. So we have that problem. Pastor Itua is back. Yes.
Okay. Pastor, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody was engaging me on something quite critical. I really apologize. So, am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, my brother, for that very passionate, very concise, very direct conversations on Nigeria. And I'm hoping that the Lord Almighty will hear our cry. Some people say that we've prayed enough. I'm not sure we've prayed enough. When your prayers are answered, is when you know you've prayed enough. So until those prayers are answered, we're going to continue praying. And some people say, all this prayer. I think it's prayer that is even keeping Nigeria together. If there was no prayer, I wonder where we would be. So we'll continue to pray, because sometimes I think that our solution might only be divine. The more I look at the leadership class, the political class, the way they're so self-directed and self-motivated, in way there's such a lack of principle, in which there's such a lack of concept of what is in general good or what's in the good of all. In way, all they're concerned about is how we can get in there and procure and get the corrupt dividends of democracy or whatever it is. That's what 95% of them are interested in. What's in it for me? And that's very painful, because when such a majority of people, including the electorate, have that sort of thinking in mind, it's going to be very, very difficult to find 10 righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's where we are in Nigeria. And that's where the divine comes in. Maybe it is God that will finally locate a Moses in the wilderness and bring him back to Israel, or locate a David in the wilderness and arrange for him to become president of Nigeria. But if we leave it to ourselves from this present crop, it's going to be very, very tough to do it, because there's the quantum of selfishness is unbelievable, and is at all levels. So the people who are not complaining are usually, or the people who are complaining are the people who are usually not at the table, and they keep complaining until they get to the table, and then after they've gotten to the table, they join the party. So if anybody is saying things in Nigeria, criticizing this, criticizing that, 3/4 of the time is because they're not at the table. You know, I see people in a party today, they cross over because they've been cheated out of a position. They go to another party, and from that party, they start throwing stones at the party they were in yesterday, and so on and so forth. It's just unbelievable how we got here. And some people are blaming the army. I blame a lot of it on the colonial masters, but I blame us Nigerians the most, because everybody's afraid to tell the truth, and everybody's afraid to bear the consequences of telling the truth. So I thank you very much, Mr. Audu. I pray that God continues to give you courage and strength, and that God continues to preserve a few righteous men in Nigeria who will one day face the country and try to get us out of this. You know, the irony is that if Nigeria was working well, it would be well with everybody. If people are not too greedy, you'll be able to do your business, make your money, go your way. You know, you don't have to know this, know that, know the other one. In Singapore, most people are wealthy. In Dubai, the same thing. They don't need to line up in front of their prime minister's house begging him for contracts. Just use your brain, make your money. But here we are. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody who have contributed today. And I want to thank all those who were not able to take their questions. I'm sure that next time we will do our best to do things. One of the comments that you made about our platform being a bit elitist, we'll try and find a way to reach deeper into the grassroots. We have something called the Citizens Engagement Platform, or the Community Development Projects, where we really want to go into the communities and preach this kind of gospel also, and try and get our people to have their minds transformed. I really think that unless and until the average mind of the average Nigerian is transformed through knowledge and information and an idea of what is possible, we'll be really, really scratching the surface. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless you all. Sonny, thank you. Jumoke, thank you. Olu Victor and the people in the back office, Faye, thank you very much. God bless you, my brother. And Jumoke will be getting in touch with you. She has some things she would like to discuss with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Audu, for joining us.
Jumoke,
And
there's
then I
that
also
man in
put-
diaspora that says he wanted to know how you
Yes.
can help. Yeah, please.
I've gotten all their contact information.
Okay,
And
I trust you.
I also put a link in the chat room for those of you joining us for the first time. Please go ahead and fill that form so that we can have your contact information and keep you posted on events such as this. And thank you to those that sent their phone numbers directly to me. I will be following up with you on conversations on engagement.
Thank you.
These
Bye-bye.
are some families from Kuriga, the village where the children were kidnapped.
Have a good evening.
We plead with the government to help us. We don't have any security in this community. No police outpost, military presence, and no local vigilante.
Good evening, my president.
Security.
Well done.